So today I'm going to do the Anki cards for the first time. And then I think I'm gonna do 15 minutes for each deck. Then after this, which is gonna be half an hour obviously. Then after this I'm going to, I think, spend some time stepping over the Visual Studio source code. It's been such a long time since I stopped doing this, should study all the other stuff, that I don't even remember very well uh, what exactly I was trying to do there. So I think from what I remember, the last thing that I did on the Godot project is I was trying to make the uh, file system doc thing work. So I basically copied the class that they have on Godot from the editor to the class that they use to load the files, and then I changed some stuff to make it work with the thing that I'm trying to do, which is gonna be an IDE scene. And I was trying to, I think I was doing different things with the, this is the part that I don't remember really well, but I think I was trying to see if it's gonna work with paths that are not from the project. So absolute paths from the file system, and then I was testing with the documents, I think, from my computer, the path, and it was taking a massive amount of time to load. So initially I thought there was a problem with the threads, but then I think later on I realized that I waited for a long time, and then I realized that it is working. It's just that it's taking a massive amount of time to load. So I think that's what I have to try to solve now. So it might be very annoying, actually, now that I remember, because I might have to change everything. I think the way that they did this is like, so they did it in a way that makes it very easy to think about, but it's probably not the best, I think. The thing is, it could be some other issue, so that's the part that I'm not 100% sure. But I think that, like yeah, I'm not really sure. They probably did it the way that they did it here, so that is a lot easier to reason about. So the way that it works is that you have a class for each subdirectory from the main directory. So they have functions that are going to traverse the whole directory using the dir access, I think, class, and the dir access mainly class. And then they create this file system directory class, which in my case, I just copy the class that I had and put this prefix here for the module that I'm creating. So for each subdirectory, they allocate space on the heap, and they use this class here to manage the state of the subdirectory. And I think that's the thing that I'm probably gonna have to change, because it might be what is making it take a long time. And there must be a way to make this faster, because on VS Code, obviously, is a lot faster to load, and it doesn't really matter. I tested already opening VS Code on the documents path, which is the path that I have the most files, and it loads basically instantaneously. And VS Code is written with Electron, so it's basically JavaScript. So in theory, it should be a lot slower than Godot, because Godot is on C++. So I assume that there's something that I can do to make it faster. But the thing is, it might be another problem, and I'm just misinterpreting what is going on. But I'm gonna try to. So this is the reason why I think it's probably the best thing to do. I'm probably gonna use ChatGPT as well to see if I can get more information, or like a better way to go about trying to figure out, because it might take a long time to understand how VS Code loads the file systems, or the files that show up there, or I might not be able to see because it might be something hidden on Electron, the functionality that I actually want. So I'm not really sure, but I have to figure out a way to solve this. I'm gonna start with the flags and nuances here. And I'm gonna put 15 minutes. So this one, if I remember, I just put the flags here. So GNA is probably ZF equals 0. Sometimes it bugs, so I can't see the thing. This is ZF. ZF is 0 flag. So this is the same x86 assembly nuance cards. So I basically want to memorize what flags have to be set for the jump to happen. So jump equal is going to be 0 flag. Jump not 0. So I think this one is probably SF. This one is kind of tricky. So it has to be ZF maybe, like ZF 0. The ones that are kind of confusing are the ones that are either one of the flags. And it's more a combination of the instructions that is confusing. But memorizing the flags for the jumps is going to make it easier to understand the other instructions. So I assume this is jump if 0, so it's probably ZF equals 1. Nice. It bugged, so I can see the thing. Jump if greater. I'm gonna open there the thing. These are I think I put some Anki cards about this, but there's two different kinds of jump instructions. There's jump if greater or lower than, and then there's jump if above or below. And one of them is for signed, and the other one is for unsigned. And I think that this one is for unsigned, but I don't remember pretty well. I'm pretty sure that I created a card for this. So somewhere along on this card, on this deck here, there should be a card that asks about this. And if I didn't, I'm probably gonna create one there. So jump below and above is unsigned, and greater than less than is signed. So since this one is signed, I think it's gonna be SF equals 1, or ZF equals 0. It's jump if greater, so it should be 0, I think. SF equals 0. SF is signed flag, so if SF is set, it means that the result of the subtraction that came before the check is negative, which means that the number is going to be lower, I think, because it subtracts the one that is testing, I think. Usually that's how you're going to do it. So I think it's going to be 0 and 0 probably. So I did the other way around, but it's the correct answer. ZF equals 0, and both of those have to be true. So it's not and it's not or is and. So ZF equals 1. Well, I'm not sure why it's bugging a lot now. ZF equals 1. Jump if not lower or equal, I think, this one. Not lower or equal. Not lower. So I think it has to be like this. Or ZF equals 0. Not lower. Oh, I'm gonna open this again because it's not showing the answer in some situations. Jump greater or equal. So ZF equals 1 or SF equals 0. No, it's only SF equals 0. Yeah, I guess it's because if if it is accepting equal and greater, then it doesn't matter. If SF equals 0, it means that is gonna work. So jump greater should be signed, I think. Yeah, greater is signed. jumps if SF equals 0 now, and ZF equals 0. It's the other way around, but I got it. ZF equals 1. Jump is not 0. Yeah. This one is SF, I think, equals 0. No, this. So I think this one is jump lower, jump if not lower or equal. GM. This one is the same as greater. Jump not lower or equal. I think it's SF, this one. Yeah. So this one has to be, ZF has to be 0 because you have to make sure that is not equal. ZF equals 0 equals 1. F equals 1. These ones I'm gonna put. So I'm pressing 1 to do it again. But if it's very easy, I usually press either 2 or 3. Jump now, it's lower. Maybe this is FF equals 0. Yeah. So this one I think it should be CF equals 0 and SF equals 0. No, you jump lower, so both of them have to be 1, I think. No, this one has to be 0, because otherwise it is equal. It's only SF equals 1. So it is redundant to test if it is 0. But it is kind of weird though. I guess it's because you can't have a situation where ZF equals 0 and SF equals 1. Because if SF equals 1, it means that it was negative, the result. Yeah, so that makes sense. This one is the one that's is like this. Greater or equal. So I think, yeah. This one is the easiest. Jump equal. So I'm gonna press 3. Jump greater. SF equals 0. That's fucking bugging. I'm gonna open this again, so sometimes it does this where it doesn't show the answer. I think it bugs. Jump, not lower. Not lower. 0. Jump if lower. SF equals 1. 0. Not greater or equal. So I think this is probably I think it's redundant to have this. Yeah. Jump if greater. Mm. Jump if not lower. I think lower equal is the one that doesn't matter. No, this that should be. Maybe this one is R. Yeah. This one I think it is the one that have to check for both. 0. Not greater. So f equals 1. I think this one should be, or, yeah, greater. Hardest one to remember is the ones that require 2 flags. Jump if not lower. Jump if not lower. Jump if. Maybe it's the card that is not correct. No, I think that's it's just bugging because on other times it works. Jump if not equal 0 equals 0. Jump if lower 0 equals 1. SF equals 1. If greater, not greater or not greater and equal. So I think that this should be 0. 0. No, it's not greater. It's just SF. Just SF. Mm. Yeah, because if it is 0, it doesn't jump. Mm. Okay. So now I'm gonna do the other one. Elemental patterns. This is the one that I put that I finished last time. So I'm gonna do 15 minutes. So the front is there is something that I had to do this again from the first time, and I realized later. So when you change the cards here, that's how I was doing it. I just had two different sections here, and then I was changing through the cards, the front template and back template. But then what I realized is that when you change here, it's gonna change all the cards because you're changing the type. So you're changing the style of the template of the card and not the single specific card. So then what I did was to change. So this is they use Jinja templates, which is the same template that Django uses. So this syntax here is basically a variable on the template, and it's gonna be dependent on whatever name you put on the fields here. So I changed so that if you put this it formats in a code way. Formats in a way that you can put codes. So I created another field there, and it's basically the same on the back. So I have the codes on the thing here, and you have the description, which is the name of the thing that it represents there, the example. And then on the fields, you can change here. I just added two fields here and then change the name. So whatever name you put on the field here is the name that you can use there to access the variable. And then the way to make them unique is to just put the code on the sections here instead. So it's different for each one. And then I put the other thing that I did was to use the 64 compiler, x64 on compiler explorer. Because according to ChatGPT, this compiler here is the 64-bit x86 version, and the other one is 32 bits. So I decided to just risk and try and put all the examples on the x64 there. So this one is calling this multiply large with two very long numbers. This one is the maximum of the numbers before it breaks. Gotta put, and I put different numbers to differentiate. So this one is related to the main. Keyword is gonna be quad word. The word I think is 8 bytes. So the quad word is 64 bytes. One word is 8 bytes, and the word's gonna be 32. Then it subtracts 72 from RSP. This should be 16 bytes alignment, I think, on 64 bits. But it's basically the same as 8 because it's multiple, or it should be very similar. So this is 72 decimals, I think, which is 48 hexadecimal. 4 times 624, 64. Yeah, 72. 72 divided by 16. That's 12 rows. Then here is the massive number. It's going on the RAX. And this is a different value than the one that I had there, which is interesting. Then it moves this. So this is the value of the J variable that I had there because of the offset. So J is offset 40. And it's gonna put that here. This passing as a parameter. And then, so I guess this is the first value that I had. I guess, yeah, now I'm not really sure. It's interesting because the value there is obviously 999, like a bunch of nines, and here is not, and I think that it has to do, maybe it has to do with the two complements thing, but maybe not. They're both negative as well. I think probably not because the other one is 888. The other one seems to be correct. So it moves from the register to this place, and then moves this one to IX, and moves this one to the F offsets. F. And it puts them by convention. These are gonna be the first registers that are used for parameters is RCX and RDX. RCX is the first value, so J is the first variable, and F is the second one. And they are put on reverse order on the stack. So it's from right to left. Then it calls the function. Here just moves to the stack. Then uses IMO to multiply them. And the REX is going to be the register that they use to put the return values on. And I believe that on this one, I'm making the multiplication equal to another variable, which is the C here. So that's why it's moving from REX to this other offset. It's 48 from the stack, from the stack pointer. Then it moves this to EX, and it's probably using EX because of the size, I think, of the value. Yeah, because I think that I made equal to an int, I think, on the example. Let me see. No, it's a long. So this is kind of interesting. I wonder why it uses EAX here instead of just moving to the REX. And then at the end there, it's gonna add 72 to RSP to clean up the shadow store values. I'm gonna move on to another one. This one is just multiplying unsigned multiplication. These two numbers are, again, it removes 5 rows here. So it looks like it is aligning based on 8 bytes, probably. Then it's using EDX and ECX again, and it's gonna use IMO. The reason why I put this example here is because even though the types are different, so on this one and the other one, they still use IMO for both of them. But this one they are using EAX, and it's probably because of the size of the integer to put the return value. EAX is just the first 32 bits, 32. And now I'm not. I think it is bits actually. Yeah, it's 32 bits, not 32 bytes. It's 32 bits from the. Yeah, 32 bits, which is 4 bytes. From the RAX. So RAX is 64 bits, 8 bytes. And it cleans up the XOR just with the same register, just cleans up the register. It usually does this when it doesn't return anything. And then it cleans up the stack here. And this is a float example with a negative value, and then a bunch of if else conditions. Again, same thing with the stack. Now it's using this other real for the float, because the representation on the hardware is different for floats. It uses the like this scientific notation here to store the numbers, It's based on the mantissa, the exponents, and the sign. And then it uses these other registers as well, and the other instructions here. Is moving the first float, which is this value, to the XMM1. So this is probably by convention as well. But I think I didn't write the convention for the floats. Yeah, I didn't write for the floats. But it looks like he's gonna use the XMM1 as for the second argument and XMM0 for the first one. Then it calls the function, and then here is gonna compare. It moves to the stack. First this value, then the other one. Then A is gonna be the first argument, which is XMM0. And here is using this instruction here. I'm gonna ask what this does to ChatGPT. But it's probably just a comparison between floats. That's probably what I guess is happening is just comparing the two floats, and then it's doing a jump. I didn't create the cards on the other one for floats, jump instructions as well. So I did it based on the picture that I have here. Yeah, I think this is just for integers. So the GP instruction that is using there is not here. But I assume, so usually what's gonna happen is the first jump instruction is gonna be the else condition. So I assume that this is gonna jump if they are not. Cool. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT. Another compare scalar precision floating point values. So it's basically a compare between floats. Jump if parity checks the parity path. Hmm. I don't understand why this is there though. Because, so let me remember the conditions. It's comparing physical. So the G and A obviously makes sense. Jump if not equal. So the jump if not equal. So I guess it's just for like a prevention thing. So the GP is probably put there by the compiler to check in case there is an error. So it's checking to see if the one of the numbers is none, so not a number. In case the comparison was unordered, meaning one of the values was none. Yeah, assume that the compiler puts this there to throw an exception. Then you compare to see if they're not equal, which is the else clause. This is gonna mean it's gonna jump to this label, which is L2, which is this else condition. This guy's it's probably an else if condition. Yeah, it's definitely an else if, because usually when there's only an else, it jumps to the end there. I think this structure is usually what happens when you have else if conditions. And this is probably the end of the thing, which is here. Adjust the return statement. So same thing here, compares. It's comparing A and B, then jump below or equal. Shouldn't below be the unsigned? Yeah, below. It's kind of weird because both of them are. No, one of them is negative, the other one is positive. The floats are gonna be harder to understand. I think I have to focus more on the understand the integer examples a lot first. Then once I memorize everything, then I focus more on the floats because all the instructions are different. And the most annoying thing about floats is the way that the representation there is very difficult to understand. It's not that it's mostly just confusing because the bias is you have to subtract a number from the bias to get what the actual value is. And they do this for an optimization because it's easier to represent negative values this way. So usually you're gonna, I think it's gonna be n minus 1 or something like that. So if you have like, for example, 8 bits, the maximum value you can represent is 2 to the power of 8. And you have to subtract 2 to the power of n minus 1, which is 8 minus 1, which is 7, from the number you have there. And this is so you can represent negative numbers. I think, if I remember correctly, that's how it works. So I put 2 negative values. This is the last one that I'm gonna do this. And then I'm gonna start studying the Visual Studio source code. So allocates 4 rows here. Then it's moving to the DAX, ECX again. I was gonna use IDIV here. This one I remember. I asked this to GPT last time, but I forgot already. What is CDQ? It's gonna move from the registers to the stack again. B and A, and then moves A to EAX. So the ID probably works with the EAX, so that's why it moves to the register here first. And this has something to do with the sign of the things. Then it's using IDIV, which is the sign division. The thing, yeah, for understanding more how the multiplication and division works, I'm gonna have to go over x64 DBG at some point. Because here it just uses one register, but I know that the result's gonna use 2 different registers. So that's the part that is very confusing to understand. Because when you are working with higher level languages, you don't have to think about how this works. And I imagine that if you're working with assembly, you're gonna have to think about like the 2 different registers and how to use them after the division. So instead of thinking about the whole number after the division, you have to think about the quotient and the remainder, which is very weird, I think, and unnatural to think about. But obviously, it's going to depend on the application, so that's why it's kind of hard to understand how it works. Sign extension. So after it moves this, it extends the x should take into account the sign of the a because it's a negative value. And the negative is represented with choose complement sum. If you're using decimals, it's going to be just minus, but on the hexadecimal, it's going to be the choose complement representation on assembly. And I'm pretty sure that, yeah, so this is the value of b. No, it's the value of a, because the first argument. So the value of a, and then it pushes that to it pushes from the register to the stack, and then from the stack to the, moves from the, not pushes, but basically the same thing. And then it extends to take into account the sign, then it does a division using the value of b. So I'm gonna put another thing here. So from last time that I went over, I have these notes here. So now I'm gonna spend some time going over the Visual Studio source code. I think I kind of have to remember. So probably the main thing, I need to clarify what exactly do I need to understand there. Like what is the plan for? The first thing that I was thinking about is that I'm probably gonna have to change so that the way that it works on Godot is that you have this class, which is the dir access class. The dir access class has functionality. Maybe I should. This is why I was looking to the commands here. I should build this again. It's been a long time since I've done this. I don't even remember like how I was doing this. So I should build, and then I should open the editor again, and then remember. But basically, from what I remember last time that I did this, I was thinking about not using the class that they use to manage the subdirectories, and just use this DA directly. So this DA is the dir access, and the dir access is going to have the functionality to get the paths from the directory. So this is, I think, is one of the main functions that the file system doc class uses. And so here it gets the current directory and it's going to traverse the directory. So I think that this is going to return a list, and then the thing that it makes it very confusing is that you have to see what is going on in runtime because of the way that the Godot works. So everything is a class, and then on runtime, because it is a class, the type is going to be the base class. So on runtime, you have to see which one it is and what the function does. But I imagine what is going to happen is creating a linked list after it does this, and then this probably changes the state of the class, and this gets the one directory by directory by directory, and then it's going to push them into this list here. So it's putting everything into a list. Then after it does this, it uses an iterator, I think, pattern to loop over each one on the list there. So I think it starts here first. Then it loops over each one, and then based on the names. Yeah, based on the names, it's gonna create here, and then it's gonna call recursively. So when it hits a subdirectory, it goes to this clause here. So I think here is mainly going over the subdirectories. And you're just gonna call, so it's like going horizontally or like diagonally. Because the loop goes horizontally and the recursion goes vertically. So goes both ways there. And then it's gonna save things on the on this thing here. Yeah, I guess like this is why it's very annoying. Because they are using this class here to they're using on the recursion and then they're saving the state with the class. That's the problem. Because when it hits this, it's gonna be like the end of the recursion. So it's like on the backtrack. And then the state is on the P directory, which is based on this EFD here. So each time it's getting the so like on the first backtrack, this is gonna be like a new EDF thing here. And then it's not gonna have probably so it doesn't have subdirectories. So it just pushes here. And then for the other ones, it's gonna do this thing here. I really don't like this stuff. It's annoying because it's gonna be hard to. Like, it's just an annoying problem to solve. It's not very interesting. Because on the front end, it doesn't matter what happens here, because the classes on the front end should show the actual thing on the editor. They are different. The only thing that matters is the structure and how do you handle the structure. So here on the create tree, this one is gonna be the roots of the thing, of system directory, which is like the root node there. Maybe I could keep this one here. So I think it would be much faster probably if I could have a list of all the paths for the subdirectories and then, yeah, but I guess like you need to have a tree structure because each subdirectory has to be associated with the files and subfolders for that subdirectory. So I guess the thing that I have to do, like the main priority is to figure out exactly why it's taking a long time because it could be something else. I think that's the reason why I was going over VS Code. Try this one. What I have to do differently, like maybe the easiest way to see to test things is to change the like I'm gonna create a separate function and then I test things on the separate function and I just change the places that call the scanner directory because the scanner directory I think is the main one because it's gonna be called from the other ones which use threads. So the main thing I think that's so there's two things. One is to figure out exactly what the root of the problem because I need to make sure then if it's because the class it doesn't make any sense to be it doesn't make sense for this to be a lot slower than the other one. So I think that the thing that I'm not 100% sure is like whether or not something related to trans. Because it could be something related to the trans or something weird like that that is related to the external state and how it's impacting the class and not the organization of the class because I'm not really sure. The question is, but it might be actually. So like, is it possible that the just allocating memory on the heap here for each subdirectory is gonna make a massive difference? And I think it probably does because it scales exponentially with the size of the root directory. So the more subfolders you have, obviously, like the more memory you're gonna have to allocate, and then it becomes a lot. But the problem is that you're gonna have to allocate either way on the front end. But I think that it has to like it needs to be physically possible to be a lot faster on C++, obviously. So if they can do it on VS Code very fast, it means that there has to be some like there has to be a way to make this very fast. So, but the question is whether or not the creation of the classes have this high of an impact there. Because you have to create here anyway. Yeah, you're gonna create a new three item class either way for each, and I don't see a way to do this without creating the class. Obviously, you need to allocate memory on the heap. So the question is like if you have to create here anyway, if changing whether or not changing this to 'cause the only other way that makes sense is just to get the strings and then to do the logic based on the strings and then just create the class on the front end one time. And that would be the biggest difference in the way that I'm thinking about it. So I'm thinking about figuring out a way to use the DRAccess class directly to get the paths and then find the logic to work with the paths instead. But I would have like there would need to be a tree either way, I think. So it might be something different. That's the problem. Yeah, here is the situation. It's like it's not showing anything there. I have to remember because there was another thing here. So there was one way. Yeah, it was like one situation where it is the beginning of the thing where it doesn't have a cache. So I have to go. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter. And then there is another situation where it's like selecting from here. And it looks like it's not going over. So I'm gonna have to close the cache there to see if it works. Yeah, so now it's breaking here, so it doesn't allow me to. And I think this is because I'm gonna have to go over with the debugger, I think. I'm trying to remember like where I left this, where I stopped. And I'm pretty sure. So probably the best thing to do is to put the breakpoints here again. And So the way that I'm doing there, like there's a configuration on, this is basically the class that it is from Godos that I just copied, and I did some modifications to work in the way that I'm thinking about working. And they have codes for a config file that allows you to save configurations, and then they put that on a path there, a standard path for Windows. That is going to be basically a file that it works in a similar way. It's basically the same pattern, so it's just a different format. And I might do JSON after, but it's basically the way that JSON works, but in a different format. The JSON is safer, so there is a way to make work with JSON, but for this thing here, I'm not 100% sure if I need to do this. So I'm just using the config file. And the first time that you open, it doesn't have anything. So I display a button to open a path, and then after you select the path, you're supposed to open the path and load the state. But when it loads that, it's trying to load that path that I put there. From what I remember, it does work, but it takes a massive amount of time. And then because Godot uses threads, one of the threads is trying to load the path, and the other one continues the game loop. And it's as if like there isn't anything wrong, but then when you close, because the other thread is still working, the main thread stops on a place there and doesn't close the thing. So you have to wait until the thread stops, the thread that is opening the directory. So I think that's the reason why last time I wasn't sure, and I'm still not 100% sure whether or not something related to the threads, but I think it's unlikely that it is, because if you wait, it does work. And I remember that I would put like logging statements, just see. So I'm gonna just go over Visual Studio. And this is basically the function that I created here. So this is gonna save the configurations on the file, which is on this path here. The user is a special path that they have functionality internally to translate into the app data from the Windows. It's gonna be on the app data. I think this is just a standard path on Windows that applications use to save configurations. It's both app data local and roaming. I think local is for cache files and roaming is for settings and stuff like that. So because I saved before, I have the path on this file, and if I want to restart from the initial button, I can remove this, and then I can test with another path, but it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna close, and I'm gonna close this. So the question to ask is, what is the best way to... I need to clarify what is the best way to go about understanding what is going on with VS Code. So this code that I have here is just the source code for VS Code, and I put a bunch of breakpoints, and they already provide the debug configurations on the source code. So just have to build and set up his own launch.json and task.json on the .vs code folder. So I put a bunch of breakpoints in the beginning before it starts VS Code. And I do remember last time that I spent a bunch of time. So I think that the question that I need to clarify is, how do they load the files? What happens, what is the flow after you select folder to open? I'm probably gonna press F5, get to the point where it loads VS Code. So I'm pretty sure that I put breakpoints before. I remember that the time that I stopped this, I found the class. I think it is open folder action. There was another class there, and I do remember that I put a bunch of breakpoints. But they use a proxy pattern to... So in the beginning, they load a bunch of service classes. that they use to have like structure the functionality of kind of like, I think this is the backend. And then on the other functions, they're gonna have, they create another, I think they do everything through the configuration service. So the configuration service either has the main proxy or uses the main proxy to communicate with the other services. And it does this after it calls a function there. And then the functions that are responsible for, that have the functionality for deciding what happens after you open the file are more on the front end, obviously. So I'm gonna press F5 here. I wonder if I have another folder. Because I do remember I wrote some stuff down, but I don't remember if I saved this or not. And maybe it was on Scheduler and then I forgot to save. So I'm just gonna do, I can't find the stuff. I'm just gonna do it again, whatever. I'm probably gonna pick it up fast after. I'll go back to the place that I stopped before. I think the main thing that I have to focus on is the control flow after you select a file. I do remember this was one of the class related. I guess like the main thing to figure out, the biggest problem is that it might not be possible to see the function that is being used to get the files, because it might come from Electron, and then, or I'm gonna have, I don't know if the Electron, I think Electron is probably open source, but I'm not sure if it's gonna be worth it to try to understand, because it might be a standard thing that, but I guess the function there must have functionality, I think, on the front end to. I vaguely remember that the way that they select the paths is based on like on configurations and stuff like that. It's like these paths here. I don't remember how it works though. I'm just gonna press F5 a bunch of times. This is the main class, and this is called on the beginning functioner. So this is the main function that initializes all the services. The services have the functionality for what happens on the backend. So I'm just gonna specify probably the file service. Looks interesting. I do remember that this disposable is related to the events. So they use the observer pattern for the events. So all the classes use an event meter, I think. And then they use these action classes to determine what happens after the event, I think. I was gonna ask ChatGPT. I think I last time I was looking based on the tooltips. I'm gonna press F5 much times to get to the point that it loads the IDE, because I'm pretty sure I remember that I put breakpoints on the main loop, but then I had to remove them because like you can't do anything. But I think I'm pretty sure that I put breakpoints on the functions that are related to the stuff that I'm trying to solve there. So basically the way that it works is that when there's a new project, there's going to be a button in the beginning. Then when you click the button, there's going to be a class that is like the dialog class, and there's like other class. I think is like kind of like object-oriented programming, where I have the classes that are responsible for opening the file dialog that shows up there to select the directory. But then after that, after you click OK on that, I do remember that I found functions that have stuff related to the paths, but I don't remember if I put breakpoints or not. So I'm gonna see. If I didn't, then I can just go over again. I'm pretty sure that this is the beginning there. That's, yeah. The last place before it starts everything up is on that mutex thing that imports. Mutex on C++ is just a flag. Uh, it works as if like a semaphore way to prevent different threads from accessing the same data. So preventing data races. An issue. Yeah, this was one of the classes related. Just gonna press F5 a bunch of times. Get to the point. Oh, so this is the function that is gonna figure out the last working directory. So uses this contact server service folders. History service. So workspace is probably a JSON file that contains the configuration for the workspace and works like a cache. I'm gonna press F5 again. So I think the main priority, like I shouldn't care too much about any of this other stuff. And the main priority is finding the problem is that it might be a bunch of functions, obviously, but I want to find the function or all the functionality related to. The question is, how do they load the files? What algorithm they are using to load the files? So on the thing that I have on Godot there, which comes from the editor file system from the Godot's class and the file system doc, the way that it works is they use threads and when the node enters the tree, I don't remember exactly if it's when it enters or when it's ready, but on one of the events there, in the beginning of the initialization of the node, it's going to set the functionality from one of the threads to get the root directory that you have there on the project, and then it's gonna call the scan new dir eventually from the thread. The scan new dir is gonna go over all the subdirectories and the files of the directory, and it's gonna create the class that is gonna hold the state for the subdirectories, and basically creates everything on the backend. So it creates the state on the backend of the directory, and then it uses that on the file system doc class to get the names of each directory, and then to create the other class, which is the tree class, that has the tree items. And the tree is the root of the stuff that is going to show actually on the GUI. And the tree item is each cell that shows up there. So, and that's going to be the update tree and the create tree functions on the file system doc. And those functions are the ones that create the front end. So first it creates the backend by traversing the entire directory, recursively using the for loop there and the recursive call. So it builds the state first and then uses that state on the front end to create the tree and tree item classes that are going to create the actual visualization of what shows up on the front end. I think I have to figure out how. So the main part is the backend. Is how do they. Well, so basically contrast both of them. How does VS Code determine how to build the state for what they are going to show and whether or not that's separate from the front end, which I think it most likely is. It's probably the same thing. But it might not be possible because the backend is probably done with Electron, I think. So I guess this would be one of the first questions to ask is whether or not the thing that builds the state of what's going to be shown there is done by Electron or C++. And then the code here is going to communicate with that through some messages, or it's going to be built on the JavaScript or TypeScript. I'm going to remove this breakpoint there because it's too annoying. So whatever. Fuck out of here. Okay, so this is the flow there. So hopefully I have breakpoints If not, I'm just gonna go back again. So this part here is gonna be the one that opens the GUI, the file GUI to show the dialog that, yeah, I think it's file dialog or something like that. That is gonna show the thing to select the folder. I'm gonna try to go fast over this. Alright, this is one of the functions. So I think that this proxy class is related to the services thing. So it basically creates a bridge between the front end and the services classes on the back end. Big folder and open. So returns a proxy. So it's gonna be communicating with file dialog service. The file dialog service is probably the one that's file dialog service. It's probably the class that manages the functionality for. So assume that if the functionality to do this stuff on the to organize the structure of the state of the folders is on the front end, is on the TypeScript code, then it's most likely going to be a service class, because it seems that the service classes are the ones that manage these kinds of things. So this is an action. So I think that's how it works. It's like events, then the events use these action classes. The actions communicate with the services through a proxy. And they probably did this way for security reasons, probably. Not 100% sure. And I think the configure service or configuration service is configuration service is the main service class that manages all the other ones. So I think the configuration service is the class that has it does the bridge between the view, which is what shows up on the front end, and the other services, which is probably the classes that manage the state. And I do remember that this view register here, and the reason why I put the breakpoints there is because I look for the tooltips on the source code, and I think that the view registry is the thing that creates view containers, which are the classes that are used to manage each block of what's going to show on the front end, I think. Yeah, so this accessor is the proxy. And then it gets the file dialog service, and it's going to call this function from there. Big folder. And this is the thing that I was talking about, JSON there. On the schema is going to be some setting, I think, that determines which path is going to show there in the beginning. This URI scheme. I'm gonna go faster on this because it's probably not the main thing to look for is after you select the folder. So what happens after you select the folder? Because that's going to be the functionality probably that decides how to organize things, how to load the structure, and then display the folders on the front end. So this scheme here is the thing that I think it's like some setting stuff. So you probably every time that you use, like the first time you use VS Code, it's gonna save JSON files on the standard path on Windows, which is app data somewhere that has the JSON files, and then based on this, it's gonna have this. It's gonna create the state of this schema or scheme, and then these are the things that are gonna determine what shows up the first time. Process done. Dialog main service. This is the class that is related. I think this is related to the view as well. This is obviously classes that are gonna be the ones that manage the state for the dialog windows. And I think it makes sense to do it like this because then you can obviously just reuse the dialog window structure and then just change the data based on whatever you were doing at that time. So can you use for opening files or opening folders or doing other stuff? Yeah. So now is the interesting part. I'm gonna be right back, but I'm gonna wait. So when I'm back, I'm gonna click on select folder. So I'm gonna see first here if there is a select folder thing, because I think it is like most likely it is based on data because of the way that this is structured. So this class here is the thing that is gonna create the GUI that shows there for selecting the folder, and then it's gonna probably put whatever it shows on the button based on data, but it might be like a string here. I'll select folder. I think I already did this. There's there's none of these things here. So I assume it's probably going to be a variable that determines what you put there. Yeah. It might be on this localized thing that I was seeing here. Can look into the stock. Yes, it's this thing here, I think. So it's probably this thing here is the thing that shows up there. Oh no, it's select folder, not open folder. But I'm pretty sure that it went over this thing. So it probably uses this to somehow determine what's gonna show there because it is down here. Let's open folder. Yeah, so the title is this thing here. So that's the what's showing here. Open folder. So I have to figure out how does it create this button here. But I think it has to be this class. since this is the one that creates the, like, it's pretty obvious that is this class because of the open file here, or open folder. So this has to be the class that is responsible for creating the thing. So it means that the thing is, I'm not 100% sure if the button there, of, like if the button is this class or some other class. It looks like it's gonna use this. It's gonna use the Electron API to get the window probably. So yeah, this is the thing. So I'm not really sure if I'm gonna be able to use VS Code to figure this out. Because I think what is happening here is that on the front end they just select like configurations, and then it's the Electron, because probably the way that it works on Electron is that it's gonna use Vulkan to communicate with the driver. So Electron, as far as I understand, is on C or C++. And it's just a framework that allows you to build applications using JavaScript and using Node.js, I think. Node.js, Node.js, TypeScript, HTML, and CSS. So, like, Node.js works as a bridge between Node.js works as a bridge between the TypeScript, HTML, and CSS, and Electron, which is in C. Then I think it's either C or C++, and then Electron is gonna communicate with the driver, the GPU driver, and the GPU driver is the thing that is gonna draw this stuff on the screen. So I assume what is happening is that on the TypeScript code, you're gonna have the configurations, and then based on the configurations, you're gonna send them to the Electron, and then Electron is gonna have the code that determines how everything is structured. But maybe, obviously, I'm gonna continue to try to understand here because there needs to be a function that is gonna be like a bridge between the two. But so I'm not 100% sure still if the code that determines how to load everything and structure everything is going to be from Electron or VS Code, like, or the TypeScript code. So I have to find the. I need to see if I can find the button there on the dialog, this select folder here. So I make sure that I put breakpoints to see what's gonna happen after you click the button, because that's obviously what's gonna determine how it structures the data, and then how it creates the classes or whatever is going to be used to show the folder structure. So basically show the files and folders here. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here. I think I have to see this one first. It's dialog main service. All right, there's no. Already have here dialog main service. So it's line 108. Do pick. So it's probably on the options slash on the directory. Select folder. So this one I remember I went over here as well. I'll be right back. So I do think that this comes from Electron. So it's probably Electron functionality. Still ChatGPT. So the backend is the file service directly with the file system through Node.js API. So it's gonna be the Electron code that organizes everything. Or maybe not actually. So the Explorer model maintains hierarchical representation. Efficient. Hmm. So it does look like it is basically the same way that they do it. They're gonna map on these folders. So context service has the, I guess this is for a different thing, but it's probably the same functionality that they use. They map over the folders and then create a new class for each one. So it might be something else that I have that is the problem there. The thing that if it was something else, then you would break on smaller directories. That's what I don't understand. Also, it is done by VS Code. The file service. Hmm. It's probably here. It's gonna be here. One thing that I can do to make sure that, like, because the thing is, it could be something that I did when I translated the class, and then that's what's, because I changed small things, but I did change some things. So I'm thinking about going on the file system doc from Godot, and then changing the functionality that they use to determine which directory to load in the beginning. But I guess if I did that, then it would be like it would force me to do similar changes that I already did on the class that I have there. So it's not gonna work. Yeah, because the thing is, like, based on the way that they did it, the directory of the project is always gonna be like in the beginning always gonna have the same size, and it's unlikely that it's gonna be very big. Because like I think there wouldn't be a project that would scale to the size of the folder that I'm trying to open there, which is the code folder that I have, which has a bunch of stuff. So I do think that it makes sense the way that they did it, but for my thing that I'm trying to do is obviously not good. They do everything based on the runs. Because this is the thing, if I they designed the editor file system with the RAS path, which is the root of the project. So if I wanted to try what I'm thinking about, I would have to change a bunch of things as well. So it wouldn't matter at the end of the day. So it's probably not a very good idea. But the fact that there is code there that shows that it's just mapping over a folder and then creating another class, it indicates to me that it's very likely that it's basically the same logic that they are using to create the stuff. Which means that it might be some other issue. It might be something related to threads or some other weird thing that's going on the Godot code that I have there. Which is gonna be annoying to figure out. Actually, maybe the easiest thing to do is to disable trans and then see what happens. So for disabling trans, I think I'm gonna have to look into the build system, the build code, because it enables trans based on the macro, and I think it sets the macro based on the build system. I'm gonna have to see, like that would be one thing you should try. Because then if I disable the trans, it's gonna be very clear whether or not is the actual code there. It doesn't have anything. So what can I do here? So it's not gonna have anything. I'm trying to see if I can put breakpoints on stuff that might be related to what's gonna happen after I select the folder. Um, and let's see if following what ChatGPT is saying there. The thing is not, let's see, resolve. I'll put here. Gosh. So it's saying basically that it's gonna follow this flow here. The first one is resolve, then start roots. It doesn't have this. It's not a service. So set root is this class here. So imagine what happens is like this explorer item is gonna be the same that I have the RBF file system directory. I think like is basically the same stuff. And then this one is probably gonna be the one that's is used to recursively create the subdirectories. So, hmm. It's actually creates tree there. Now this is probably the function that is used. So I think it's basically the same thing that they are doing. So the service classes are the ones that are used to create like the backend structure, and then these view classes are going to be the ones that are used to create the GUI elements that are going to show up. And it's basically the same thing that they are doing. They use another class to hold the state of the subdirectories, and then they use the I think is this the main one is this. Explorer model is the one that holds the roots of the project. And then from here is going to use this other one to create the subdirectories. And this context service is the one that holds the folders. I'm gonna put a breakpoint here. Yeah, so I think I have to click there to see if anything is gonna happen. Like if I as the thing is, I think it's because it's a Node.js thing. When I'm debugging C++ from VS Code, usually you can select the last frame, like last stack frame, and then it goes to the last place of the execution. But I think on this situation here, because of the nature of the processes and how they interact with the debugger, it's not gonna allow me to see, because like I'm probably gonna miss the first instruction that is executed after you select the folder. But and there's not gonna be a way to see if there was anything previously. I'm gonna just gonna click there on select folder. Okay. So this is the first thing that's executing here. Also now it does look that it has the other functions now. I think it was just probably because I had the dialog open. So the last function that it calls when you after before it opens the dialog is this one, and then it looks like it's going here. Yeah, so yeah, it's like on the same place. And this is from dialog main service. Yeah, dialog main service. So now let's see what happens. So this is the default path that shows up on the when you open the dialog. Title open for. Okay, so file paths has the path of the folder you selected, and it's gonna return that. So paths is gonna be. I wonder why is a list though, but I think it's a list that only has the folder you selected, the path for the folder you selected. So this is probably gonna be the function that determines what happens. Is native host main service paths map. So for each path is gonna use this thing here. It has options. So I think it's just formatting the path based on the operational system. Let's create this class here. This UI. Windows servers. So URI should open is the thing that contains the path. Maybe I should write this here. Nice. It's gonna be an object folder UI path. Sure. It's probably here. Open based on config. I think that the main function is gonna be the first one that I put. So I think this is the main function that's probably gonna call the other functions, and it's gonna be the thing that structure the backend and then the front end maybe. The front end might come after this, the other function there. It's probably not that important to understand this stuff. It's just figuring out the format, path, stuff like that. So for the stuff that I'm interested on, it doesn't matter, I think. But I think it is a list because you can press probably you can probably press Shift and select multiple directories, but I'm not 100% sure. I haven't seen anything that I think like is supposed to be the code that is responsible for creating the either the backend or the front end of this structure. I think I'm gonna have to skip these events here. It's kind of annoying because it's hard to know, obviously, if I'm skipping anything important. Like there's so much stuff that runs there that it's kind of hard to know if I missed something or not. I think I can skip those things. It doesn't have anything here. I'm just gonna press F10 to step over and see if I miss, then I miss. Because otherwise it's gonna take too long to see what happens. Disk file system provider. So now it seems it's back on the file service. So probably I missed the place. So something happened that it broke there. Maybe it's because of permissions or something like that. But it's saying that it didn't find the directory. I think like this is stuff that on the end there before it broke. It was stuff related to configurations, I think, because it's using the path for a file on the source code. So I think that's like the functionality related to actually creating the directory happened before, and I just skipped because there's so many functions there. But I'm pretty sure now that's gonna be very similar to the way that I have on Godot there. So I'm not really sure if I should go back in, because now I'm gonna have to stop, I think. Like, I'm gonna have to break and then continue from the beginning. It is weird because it didn't like it seems that it didn't stop on any of the breakpoints that I had there that ChatGPT said. And there was some stuff related to the file service, but I think that it wasn't the functionality to create the actual thing. It might be because, but the thing is, I don't think I opened before that path, but maybe I did on like without the debugger, and then because I did that, it has on the like it shares the same configuration or something like that. And then because it has on the path on the configuration, it loads the path from the configuration instead of doing for the first time. But I'm not really sure if that's what is going on. This stuff related to the settings. Yeah, same error. That's weird. Let's see what ChatGPT says. It has to be something related to the path there. Because obviously didn't happen before. I think it's something that after I selected the path, you broke some configuration or something. Well, the other thing I can do is, but I think that this other stuff is for like other parts of the VS codes that are not related to the IDE. So I think I have to focus on this one. But now it might be very annoying. It might be a waste of time to try to figure out what the error is about. And maybe there is a easier way, like something else. I'm trying to think about like different things that I can do that because I don't have to study VS Code source code to figure out what I have to do there on Godot. Like it would be better to you would not better, it would be easier to if I could understand how they do it, so I can do it in a similar way there. But it's not necessary. I have to focus on the root of the issue there. It's basically slow. So there could be other paths to try to solve this. The problem with this is that I'm not really sure if it's worth it to spend time trying to solve this because obviously it doesn't matter to what I'm trying to do. So it might be just a waste of time. So it's making me think. So like there's three main approaches that I'm thinking about. Like one is following ChatGPT, trying to solve this issue there, like saying doing what ChatGPT said here. The other one would be to like start this from the beginning there, or delete this and try to compile again or install again. Do the steps that I did in the first time to get to debug. Because I assume that obviously what happens is something related to a configuration that changes when I select the folder there. So I think probably after the first time you select a folder, it's going to change some cache or something that is going to make it start. The next time that you start, it's going to start from that folder. And then something happened where some of these configurations changed this thing here, where it's expecting this file. This is another thing I can do is try to create this file, an empty file with this name here, to see if he complains, if he stops complaining, or and then the third option would be obviously to just see if I can think about a different way to go just solve there. Because based on the code that I've seen, obviously I don't know for sure if the code that I've seen there is related to, or is the code that is gonna create the structure of the system, because I didn't see on the breakpoints after I clicked the select folder, but it looks like it is gonna be very similar to the way that I have on Godot there. So it indicates to me that it might be something else, the problem that I have. Like the reason why it's loading, is taking a longest time to load, might be because of an issue in the structure of the function there. It might not be because here, like I think it is gonna be the same. They're gonna use this explorer item to create the subfolders, and then they use another class there to create the roots. So I think it's basically the same functionality, similar, like the same structure. So the question is whether or not it's gonna be a waste of time. So maybe it's still working. I'm gonna have to remove this breakpoint here. It's just annoying. Yeah. Whatever. Oh, maybe it is working. So I think if it does work there to open, it's gonna open from the beginning. It's not gonna have the last one, since it didn't have anything there on the. It is kind of annoying though, because there's so much stuff that is not related to what I'm trying to solve there. It's kind of hard to know at what point to step into or to go slower to see if there's gonna be anything related to what I'm trying to figure out, and one moment to go faster. So it's making me think that I should probably see if I can think about a different way to go about solving that. Because there are like those things that I talk about that I can try on Godot's. Like I can change the function there. I can do some stuff. I can, yeah. Like so, there should be something wrong, I think. Even though it's working, because it shouldn't take a lot of time. So because it seems that it works in a similar way on VS Code, it does make me think that there is probably something related to the way that the paths are being resolved. But the thing is weird is that like if it was something like it can't be something like an infinite loop because of the wrong path structure, because I changed something there on the function on the recursive function that traverses the directory. It might be something like to do with a special file name or something like that, that for whatever reason the dear access class doesn't, or like there's, but like if it was something like that, it shouldn't uh, load the thing never. Like it's not that it's not loading, it's just that it takes a long ass time to load the directory. So, but it could be, I think, something like it just opens a bunch of like it recurses too much on some situations, like so it's just increasing the size of the directory a lot or something along those lines. It could be something like that, I think, but I think it's unlikely. So yeah, I have to spend more time thinking about how to figure out what is the root of the issue there. It might be something to do with the trans as well, because I do remember like this was very annoying to figure out because like they're using multiple threads and the two different classes are communicating with each other. So I did have some problems with the threads before that, this problem, but I think that's yeah. I remember that the problem was on the flags there, because they put some flags on one of the functions to prevent the two different threads to run the same function. So I think before it calls scan new directory, there is another function, and then that function is based on a flag, and the flag is set inside of the scan new directory thing or scan file system. So it calls scan file system that, and then scan file system calls scan new directory, and scan file system sets the flag in order to prevent another thread from being initiated or yeah initiated while the directory is being scanned. So it might be something related to that as well. Okay, nice. I'm gonna try one more time and then, so I'm gonna go from the points. Or if I can get there, I'll try one more time to see what happens after I select the folder. Because I'm pretty sure I didn't see any function that, at least it seems that there wasn't any function that is gonna get the path and then recurs from that path to create a structure or something. So I'm just gonna select the same folder that I have there as code folder and then continue from this place here. I should probably put on the functions. So. Maybe it's this thing. Could be here. I, based on the names, it doesn't seem to be the function that is gonna actually load the. Seems to be more related to settings. Maybe is this place here and I skipped. I press F down there. Windows is already loaded. Make sure it's loaded. I think this is probably not. Just related to configurations again. So from that point, like until now, I haven't seen anything that makes me think that I skipped the functionality that is gonna load the files. And this goes here, but so just based on the names here, it seems that like he's getting the state from configuration or something. But maybe just checking to see if it is cached or something. But maybe this is not related to the files there. It's just like loading the settings for the workspace. But the problem is if I skip, I think I should just press F10 and try to skip this. But it doesn't look like on the other parts it's gonna do anything. This was the closest thing that I've seen that might have stuff related to the structure of the files there. But it doesn't look like it has anything also. I'm just gonna skip. It might be this thing here, actually. But I think this is also still related to the configurations. Fuck. I think that this is probably not the functionality there. The thing is, it could be like a function that gets called after an event is fired. So it could be one of the functions there, like on the that function that is. It seems that the function is emitting some events, so it could be a callback function that runs after the other function emits the event. But the problem then is that like don't want to spend a bunch of time trying to figure out. Yeah, but now thinking about it, it might be that this might make more sense because like yeah, that's how it works on Godot as well. I think it just makes more sense. Like after you click the button, it's gonna emit an event, and then one of the classes, which is probably gonna be one of those, the file service, one of the ones that ChatGPT mentioned there. There's gonna be a function. So like on the beginning, when you're setting everything up, it's gonna register to the events, and then it's gonna put the callback function from one of those classes to. But if that was the case, then it should go because I put breakpoints there. So maybe, yeah, maybe it isn't. I think that if you did call one of the functions, the should went over because I put breakpoints. This is interesting. So they're using SQLite database. Yes. Very interesting. What is you using or doing a request to this thing here? Just pressing F10, just step over. So this might be already on the loop there. Let's press 5. Like since I put breakpoints on most of the parts there on the functions, I think that's if I did went over an event, so now it's hitting this error again. If it did, if the function that creates the states runs after an event that is emitted, you should go over the function because I had the breakpoint. So I think it is unlikely that it calls one of those functions. It called one of those functions. But it didn't look like he called it like he did anything related to creating the file system or creating the structure of the files from what I've seen there. It seems that it was mostly stuff related to the configuration and setting up the states of the workspace, like things related to settings and stuff like that. I think I'm just gonna press F5 just to stop. Like it might be a better idea to just focus, like try to find other ways. So spending time on Godot, on the debugger, and then put the breakpoints again. Like I do remember the last thing, the reason why I know for sure that it works is because the last thing that I tried to do was to put like I think I put a counter on this function here, and then I printed the counter to see like if the function was still running, and then I waited a bunch of time to see if it was gonna work, and also play around with the flags. So I think like the function that calls this one, there's both this scan pass. This is the main one, and this one is called from a thread. So this one is the one that is based on this flag here. So I think that this function is gonna set the flag. Oh, it sets the flag before this, I think. I don't remember really well. But based on this flag here, is going to clean up everything. So I know for sure that it does work. It just takes too much time. But like the thing that makes this very hard is that like it's more like it's not a problem with the structure, it's a problem with the time. So this is the questions like how to and I'm pretty sure that Godot has they do have some like profiling tools and stuff like that. But the question is like how to how to figure out what is slowing down a lot. Because like one thing that I can try is just try different. I can create another function on this class and then use the other function instead, and then try variations of different functions and see if they speed up the process. So it might be better to try to do this, like spend more time on here and trying to figure out, than trying to see how they do it and then see if I can do it in a similar way. And I'm thinking more and more that based on the functions that I've seen there is going to be basically very similar to the way that I already have. So it just creates other classes. So I don't think it's going to allow me to, like, there's not going to be too much difference. Yeah, I guess the other thing to try would be something related to the threads. So I can try stuff related to threads and stuff related to the flags. Like change flags to see what happens, but I think it's unlikely because it is working though. So maybe maybe it's better to uh, try to run version without trans, then try to change flags, and try to change function structure. I think these paths might be more productive than trying to figure out the VS Code logic. I'm gonna press 5. The views are like the docs that show up on the scene. So it will be like this part here, this other part. It's kind of like containers that determine what shows up there. I'm just gonna press F5. I'm pretty sure that I put the breakpoints on all the functions that I think are related to creating the structure there of the files. So if I press F5, it's probably gonna. If it does call one of the functions, then obviously it's gonna stop there. And so maybe the way that this works as well is that what is happening right now is once you select the folder, it's just gonna open a new. It's as if you're starting VS Code from scratch again, and then the main difference is gonna be on the initialization. I think that's probably most likely what is happening. So the reason why it's weird is because it probably creates the structure in the beginning on the initialization. So when it is initializing the services, it's gonna get the path, the root path from the configuration, and then it's gonna use that on the beginning to load the file system there. I think that's probably how it works. So that's the reason why it's going over all this stuff again. Yeah, so now is on this thing here. So I'm pretty sure that that's how it works. It's gonna get the folder. Like I think when you click on the select folder, that's why all the functions there in the beginning, like before, were related to settings because it's just gonna change the settings and the workspace state, and then it opens like it is as if it's starting everything again. And that's how it works probably. So now the name is the path that I selected there. And the path is here. You're right. So now I'm pretty confident that's how it works. The folder is gonna have the roots. So it is gonna be the same thing. Yeah, now I'm pretty sure. So it's probably gonna use the create function there to recurse everything. Or maybe not. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's basically the same way. Uh, so it must be something else there, I think, that I have wrong on the on Godot. It must be something. The weird thing is that it works. That's the problem. So, like, if it was something related to, if it is something related to the threads or like to a file name, the way that handles file names, the way that dir access handles file names, then it is not something that breaks. It's something that makes it take a longer time, and that's why it's hard to figure out because it's more like it's like how do you figure out what is making it take more time? I think probably the best thing that I can think about is the stuff that I was saying. Like I should try like variations of things, and I should spend time probably stepping over and stepping into on the actual function there. But the problem is that the actually now I just had an idea. Like I can create. So actually this path is probably better than spending time because now I'm pretty sure that's gonna be the same on VS Code. So I think that probably the next thing that I'm gonna do is just there's two different ways. One is to manually create. Actually, I can select. I can figure out folders that are like start with a smaller folder and then try to increase the size of the folder that I select there in the beginning. Just see at one moment does it break. That's probably a better idea. And then like once I reach the threshold there, I can debug with that with the folder selected and step over and step into the functions on Godot to see what exactly is going on there. The question is why is it taking so long? Because if VS Code works in a similar way, then it should be faster on Godot. And it shouldn't be a problem to create unless it is because of the way that is allocating memory. But I think that is very unlikely. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's unlikely. Because Godot is already, like, they use a memory pool. And it's already optimized to, like, they don't deallocate. It only expands the memory. It never, and even, like, even if it wasn't the case, I think for that situation there, like, it doesn't matter that much. So maybe I should watch videos about this as well. The biggest difference would be that if I don't allocate, if I don't create a new class there, and if I change the function to work only with the paths, I'm still gonna have to create a hash map or something to keep track of, like, to create a connection of the relationship between the subfolders and the whatever they have as direct children. So it would be like a tree structure, and the only difference is that I would allocate the memory on the same class, and then I would use as a member variable. So like instead of creating a new class, it would be just a hash map and maybe some other data structure that I'll have to think about. And then instead of, I would just change the other functions so that they use these other data structures to get all the paths and recreate the states on the front end. So But I think it's probably unlikely that you would make it that much faster. So like, I guess one thing that I'm gonna ask this to ChatGPT there is like how long does it take allocate something. I think I'm gonna try to explain the problem to ChatGPT and see what it says as well. Like create a big prompt with like the context and everything. Might be useful. But it shouldn't be like even if it is slower, it's not gonna be extremely slower. I'm thinking that it might be something weird to do. Like it might be something to do with the trans, the way that it works there. I think I have to spend more time. This is another annoying thing because in order to understand, like I already watched a bunch of videos and read stuff related to threads, but in order to really understand how it works, I would have to spend a bunch of time uh, studying the source code and then thinking about. I don't even know because I'm using the MSVC compiler, so I think it's not open source. So I can step into and look like from the until I get to the API from MSVC, but I don't think I can look into the what is actually going on the functions. But I think that's it's just using normal threads, so it shouldn't be something like that. Because like if it was database or something like or a deadlock, then it would just break. It wouldn't continue. So this now is probably the part where it's going to create the front end there. Explorer folder view. So this function is the one that creates the. I'm pretty sure now. So it is the way that I was thinking about. This function is going to be the one that creates what actually shows here. And the function before there, I think was on the model. Yeah, this one on the roots here. This is the one that creates on the back end. So it creates the data for the stuff that is going to be displayed here. But it doesn't seem it did like it seems that it didn't go over the recursive function from this Explorer item. So here I'm pretty sure that the folder URI would be the path. It was the path that I selected there, the root of the folder that I selected. So it was the path of the folder I selected. And it initializes this with that path. That's the first argument, so it would be this resource here. But I don't think he went over create function, this function here. But I'm pretty sure that is at some point it's gonna, if it didn't go over this function, then at some point it is going to go over this, because that's the one that is gonna recurse here. So I think that it's just gonna uh, create a class for each one. That's basically almost 100% sure what happens, which means that it works exactly in the same way that the Go.1 works, because this one probably has the information for whatever the subfolder has, the files and the folders that the subfolder has. So it basically holds the states. It's just annoying to step over this because there's so many things here and a bunch of stuff that is not related to what I'm interested in. So it's kind of annoying to go over. I think I'm pretty confident that the general picture is correct of the way that I'm thinking about this. So I think it's probably gonna be more productive to spend time on the Godot's thing. Because now I think that is kind of unlikely that the problem is because like the Godot creates another class, which is kind of annoying as well, because like if it was because it is creating a different class, I think it would be a lot easier to fix. Even though it would still be annoying, it's kind of easier. Because then like I kind of know the path to follow. Just like change the function and use the dir access instead. But now I'm not really sure if I can like if I know what path to follow there to figure out what is wrong. I think it's the first time that I like got into a bug that is kind of like this nature. Because I had runtime bugs before, but it's usually because of something else, like dangling pointer or something like that. I think like this is the first time that I have a bug that is because of a time thing. It's just like not executing fast enough. So I'm not really sure how to go about this. I guess this is another thing that I can do. So I'm probably gonna do this later. So I'm gonna ask ChatGPT or Perplexity what keywords to search for. Um, so I'm gonna press a 5, try to get to the points. Or maybe I wanna see if it is gonna call the other function there, the create item, I think. I'm gonna press F5 a bunch of times. Okay, so yeah, so it is calling this function. So now I'm pretty sure that's. So I'm happy with this because now I know for sure that it like I know that it's very unlikely now that the problem is because the Godot's creating another class here because it's using new here and it's creating the class here. So it has to be it's either because of the threads or because of the flag. So there's something weird going on when it comes to this. Or it might be like the relationship between the thread and the life cycle of the game loop on Godot, like the structure of the tree, the sync tree, and how the threads are gonna connect to that. It might be something related to the like file extensions or like some weird file that I have on that folder or something like this. Yeah, I think that this is gonna be the names of the files and folders of the current subfolder. Yeah, so it has both files and folders, and then it's basically exactly the same thing. And then it's going, yeah, so it's basically going horizontally and then calling recursively. It's exactly the same. So I'm going to stop streaming now, and I'm going to, yeah, off stream, I'm going to continue to read the book there that I have and study Haskell and stuff like that. So I think probably next time that I stream, I'm going to, off stream, I'm probably going to study the other stuff that I'm studying. And then next time, I think I'm gonna probably stream tomorrow or something like this. If not tomorrow, then probably like 3 days from now. And I'm going instead of studying the VS Code, I'm just gonna spend more time here. And I'm going to I'm going to write down on the steps that I have there some ideas to try to so to figure out. So like I'm probably gonna test a bunch of things until I try to see. And I'm gonna write down a bunch of ideas of what things to try to see if I can fix this here. So yeah. So next time I'm gonna try to solve this directly on Godot. So see you then.